Hello and welcome. In today's video we're going to be doing a capture the flag walkthrough. For those of you who aren't very familiar with capture the flag, this is essentially a hacking game. We have a live server on the network running an unknown operating system, unknown services on an unknown IP. And the goal is we want to get full access or root access if it is a Linux box, administrative access if it's a Windows box. So in this process, we'll use different techniques to find vulnerabilities to actually get in and gain this access. Now on this server that we've loaded in, I am told it has 5 flags in it. Usually there is a single flag on the server that's usually in the root folder. So the goal essentially is to get into the server and escalate and get root privileges to get that flag. On this one I'm told that there are 5 flags, so there are different areas that we're going to have to address, and each of the flags will give us a little bit of a hint or a breadcrumb of where the next flag will be. So not only are we going after that final flag, but we're going to go after a few others along the way as well. Now, I do want to touch base briefly. We are in a live fire range. This is a network that is set up for the purpose of capture the flag. It is not a public network, and there are no servers or anything on here that are not aware of the capture the flag environment. If you use any of these techniques or tools out on the public network against a public target, please be aware that is illegal. And if you are caught, you can be prosecuted under cyber crimes. So let's keep it safe. Learning is a very positive thing, but we want to do it in a legal way. So we're going to jump right in and we're going to start looking at this. Remember, we don't know anything about our target out here yet. So the first thing we need to do, we need to find the target. And the first step of that is finding out what network we are on. We can find that out simply because when we plugged our computer in or we connected to the wireless, we were given an IP address by DHCP, pardon me, and we can use that information to know what network we're on. So I've got my console up. I've already moved into super user, so I don't have to constantly do that with each of the commands. And we're going to move in. First thing we want to do is we got to find out what network we're on. So if we use the ifconfig and run that, we can see down here the IP address that's been given to us by the DHCP server. We can see our subnet. So by looking at this, I know that we are on the 192.168.10 network, and that is a /24. So now I know this is where our target is. So what we need to do now is we need to scan that range to find the target. So we're going to use another little tool called NetDiscover. Now with NetDiscover you can give it different information, such as I want you to use this interface, or I want you to scan this range. For me, what I have found usually works just as fast and just as good as I just run the flat NetDiscover. And what you'll see is up here at the top, it is actually scanning a /16 rather than the /24. But once it passes the .10 for my network, I have my different targets, so I can just go ahead and stop the process there. So I see there's 4 things on this network. A couple things I know from looking at my IP configuration that was given to me by DHCP. I know that the .1 is our gateway, most likely are the firewall on the outside of this network, and due to the fact that it's from Cisco systems, that's most likely going to be a firewall or a router. So we know that's not our target. I also know that .99 is an HP server that is running the virtualization environment. So I know 99 is out. I also know that 222 is out. I can look, that is a Belkin. This is the wireless device that's plugged into this that has given us wireless access. So there's only one left, and that's the .116. So that is going to be our server. That's going to be the target that we're going to go after. We look at the MAC address on this. It's not really giving us any information. That's not really surprising due to the fact that it's in a virtual environment. So we're not really going to see any kind of MAC vendor there. So what we want to do is we want to start doing some scans against that IP to start getting some information about that. So we're going to use Nmap, and we're going to pass it a couple of different commands. The first one, I'm going to pass it as a T4, which is a timing. This can be anything from 0 to 5. The higher the number, the faster the scans are going to go. The next one I'm going to pass into it is a lowercase n. This is telling it after it finds different targets out there. Don't try to do DNS lookups on this. I don't care about DNS, so just kind of skip over that. The next one is very important for us to use. The capital P lowercase n is telling it, don't worry about pinging the device first. If the server is set up to where it does not reply to a ping, when Nmap goes to scan it, it will go to ping it, and if it doesn't get a response, it assumes that there is no live host there and it will move on. So we want to tell it with this command, it doesn't matter if it pings back or not, scan it. So if anyone's trying to hide a target by not having it reply to pings, this is going to get past that. The final piece we need to give it is the actual IP. That is our target. We got that from above as 192.168.10.116, and we're going to go ahead and have that start running. It runs pretty quick, gives us some information. All of a sudden we start seeing that we have 3 different ports that are open. We have secure shell on 22, we have HTTP on port 80, and then we have some RC bind on 111. The big one that is jumping out at me is the port 80. This lets me know that chances are this is running some kind of web hosting. So one of the things we can do with that, real quick is we can, let me just fire up a browser here, and let's just hit that IP address, 192.168.10.116, and sure enough, we can see it's actually running a Drupal site, so that is actually running an active website. So we want to look at more information, a little bit more in depth now that we know which ports we want to look at. So we're going to run Nmap again, and we're going to pass it a -A, which is going to do OS detection. So I'm going to try to identify what operating system that it's currently running. This is usually kind of important, kind of helps a little bit on different vulnerabilities that we might find. Of course, we're going to pass it the T4, we're going to pass it the lowercase n, we're going to pass it that PN, and then we're going to pass it another lowercase p, and we want to tell it what ports we want it to actually scan. So we want it to scan 22, 80, and 111. Of course, we got to give it the target once again, 192.168.10.116, and we'll let that go. So this is going to do a little bit more in-depth scan. It's going to go a little bit deeper, and it's going to really focus on those 3 different ports and give us some information about what could be going on those different ports. So we got some information back, and we do have some information here about the port 22. This is open SSH. Port 80, it is an Apache server, and it is running Drupal 7. We saw there was a Drupal site. Now we actually know what version of Drupal we're looking at. We're looking at version 7. And giving us a lot of other little tidbits here. These are different directories and different files within that web file structure. And what's weird about this is we can actually access this. So if we open that browser back up and we take a look, it says that there is a file called robots.txt. So if we come in here and we put a slash and call it robot.txt, we have access to that. So we start getting some information about this Apache server. It starts giving us the different folder structures that are in there. Like this is Drupal, so there's a themes. I would love to be able to get into a scripts folder. It gives us some files that are sitting out there. We have an install.txt, upgrade.txt. We got some user information, so there's some good stuff that we can see here. Let's see if we remove that robots.txt. How about we go after this just to see if we can see it. Index.php. Okay, so that is going to take us just back to the normal site. What about, was there there's an install.txt. I wonder if we can see that. And we can see that. So it's giving us some information about installation. It's giving some information about running scripts, creating the database, missing directory files, missing the setup files. So it's giving us information about where the configuration files are, write permissions. So a lot of this is really good information that might help us going forward. But the goal is right now, none of this information as a whole right now is going to get us access to the server, but we have some good information. We know this is a Linux box. We can see that from our scan here, and we can actually even see it is thought to be a Debian running Apache, running Drupal. So we are seeing some really good information here, so it's kind of giving us an idea of where we might look at of going in. So we can look at, are there vulnerabilities with a Linux distribution that's in there? Are there vulnerabilities with Apache? Are there vulnerabilities with Drupal? Now, right off the top of my head, I know that there are vulnerabilities when it comes to Drupal. So what I want to do is I'm going to open up another command window here. And I need to type the password right. And what I want to do is I want to start up Metasploit. Metasploit is a software that has a huge database of different vulnerabilities for different operating systems and different software, stuff like that. So we're going to fire that up. And what this will do is we can begin to leverage the fact that we know it's Debian Linux, and we know that it's an Apache web server, we know that it's running Drupal on top of that. So it's going to give us a lot of information that we can start looking at. Like I said, I know Drupal, like most CMSs, has a number of vulnerabilities, so we'll start right there. We'll just kind of do a scan for that. So let's do a search Drupal, and we're seeing a number of things come back here. So when it comes to using Metasploit, everything is given a rank, and this is the likelihood of it working. There are some that are going to be ranked as low that may work, but most likely not. There's some normals, and what we're seeing here, we're seeing a number of them that are excellent, that are saying yes, chances are this is going to work. One of the exploits that I see that we've heard a lot about is Drupal, and right here we have Drupal 2. These are vulnerabilities that are well known, that we're out there, that we're being hit pretty hard. they're showing that they are ranked fairly excellent. So the idea here, let's go ahead and see if our server is going to be vulnerable to these. So what we need to do is we are going to grab this info, because sometimes my typing is just not the greatest, and we want to tell it we want to use this exploit. So we're going to tell it to use. I'm going to paste in that exploit that we were looking at. It comes up and tells us that there is no payload currently configured, so it is going to default to a metinterpreter reverse TCP. So it's a kind of a version of a reverse TCP shell. So we're in it right now, but it's not running. A lot of these exploits require different pieces of information. So if we tell it to show the options, we see some things that it is going to require. Things that are required have to have a current setting. So we have a current setting here, here, and here. The only one I'm seeing that we don't have, which makes sense, is the remote hosts. So we have to set that. So down in the command line, we simply will tell it to set our hosts, and we want to set that to our target, which was 192.168.10.116. We tell it to show those options again. We now see that that is set. Down here, this is that reverse shell that's coming back. It has filled in our IP address and a local port to be listening to. And that looks like about it. So we're going to go ahead and run this exploit and let that start. Now what this is doing, that's going out, it's looking for those vulnerabilities on the server. If it is there, it's going to start loading in this reverse shell code. This computer is going to, because of the information right here, is going to be listening on port 4444 for that reverse shell to bounce back. So it's going to create it and it's going to send it back to this IP address. So our computer's sitting and waiting for it. And we see this prompt come up right now that says we have it. So what we can do is we can immediately find, okay, where are we on that server? Because we know we have a shell on the server right now, but we need to know where exactly we are. So we do a print working directory. We can see that we're in the var www directory. This makes sense because we are utilizing this vulnerability for Drupal. So it makes completely sense that this is where it would drop us into. Now from here we can actually do an ls command. We can see all the files that are on this Apache server. This is the actual www folder, within Apache. So these are all the active files that are on there. So what we want to do is we want to actually drop into a shell. And from here, we can start using some commands right on the server. First thing we want to know is, okay, we're on the server. Does that mean we're done? Does that mean we have it? Well, if we do a who am I, our user is www data. That is who we are. That is the user that we are logged in as. So because of that, we don't have a lot of access rights. This is a service account. We're not a true user. We definitely don't have root capabilities, but we are on the server, and that's what's important. Now, something I just noticed as I was sitting here talking to you, we've got this directory listing that we pulled. Did you see this? Flag 1. It looks like we have actually already found the first flag. So we want to take a look at what the flag says. It's a text file, so what we can do is we can cat that to the screen. And the little breadcrumb it gives us for the next flag, it says every good CMS needs a config file, and so will you. All right, so we're beginning to get some information on where that second flag is. So we got to start thinking along the lines of Drupal. We got to start thinking of the config. One of the things that we can think about is, remember when we were looking at this install text, didn't we see something about the config files? Because I thought we did. Yes, missing systems files. So we can pull a copy from default.settings. Okay, so here is the configuration file. It is in the settings/default settings PHP. All right, so the question is, can we get there? So let's try it. So let's go ahead and move directory into sites. Then let's move into default, and let's take a listing. Okay, so here's that default.settings PHP, which was kind of the backup that it was saying you can make a copy of this if you lose yours. But here, right here, is the actual settings file. So this is what flag 1 was pointing us to. It was saying you need a config file. So it's a PHP file. We can cat that. So let's cat settings.php, cat that to the screen, and like most config files, there's a lot of info, so we'll go back up to the top. Oh, look right here, flag 2. All right, so we've already found the first flag. We've now found the second flag. And this one is telling us that the brute force and dictionary attacks aren't the only way to gain access. And you will need access. What can you do with these credentials? Now down here, we're starting to see some credential information, but this is for the database array. This is actual database connection. So what I'm getting from this is it is actually wanting us to get into the Drupal admin piece. The thing to remember is the Drupal software is separate from the actual server software itself. Just because we have a user account and we are browsing around on the server itself, we still do not have access to the server itself. Remember, if we go back to the main server, we can't log in here, and it's saying that we need to. And there's an option here for create a new account. Now it cannot be that easy. Let's try it. See if it's really this easy. Thank you for applying for account. Your account's currently pending approval from the administrator. Okay, so that's never going to happen. So that's not going to get us in. But it's saying that they want us to get access into the actual Drupal admin piece here. All right, let's do this. I got an idea. Let's start looking for some more information. So let's open this up a little bit wider. Let's look at search exploit, and let's search for Drupal. And we see a lot of different vulnerabilities that we can apply towards it. We see some cross-site scripting, PHP injection, so a lot of this is starting to look pretty good, but the thing we have to look at is the version here. Remember, we're running version 7, so these aren't going to help us, so we need to go down. Okay, here's version 7, SQL injection. Oh, and look at this. It adds an admin user. So we have a Python script that will do SQL injection utilizing the Drupal gettin. That could get us in. Right here is the Drupal gettin 2, the remote code execution through Metasploit. Remember, we used that earlier to get that shell. This will pop me up an admin session. Let's see if we can create an account with this. Alright, so we need, what I want to do is we need to work with this Python script. It's going to be a lot easier. I'm just going to pull a copy into the home directory that I'm working in right now. So we will just do a copy. Now this directory here, the user share exploit DB for database exploits. This is a portion of the file structure where all these exploits are stored. So once we get here, then we look up here at where it tells us it is within that exploits folder. So it says it's in the PHP folder, web apps, and it is 34992 PY, and we want to tell it make a copy right here. Alright, so we did that. So if we do an ls, okay, we see the Python script is here. So let's go ahead and run that and see what we get here. Alright, so we get a nice little splash. It tells us this is going to work for Drupal 7 through 7.3.1. It's a SQL injection, admin account creator. And right here it gives us our options. We need to give it a target. And it says we need to put it as a URL. We give it the option for a username. And then we give it a password. So let's run that again, and let's go ahead and pass it that information. So we'll give it a -T for the target. Remember it said we have to put it as a HTTPS, so https://192.168.10.116. We need to give it a username, so we will put U for username, and we will just call this Bob. Don't put your own name in here. This, use this, when you're going after this, use this, as if it was real world, not just a live fire, so don't get in a habit of putting your name in here. I mean, remember, if this works, it's creating an account on the server. So we'll name it Bob, and we need to pass it a password. So let's give it a very secure password. You're thinking right now that's your password, isn't it? Well, so they give us this. We give it a target, a user, and a password. Let's go ahead and run that, and we get some good information. Number one, it says that this server was vulnerable. It tells us the admin user was created. The login is Bob, password is password, and here is the link. Well, let's actually see if that works. So let's go back to this page. We'll put in our username, Bob, that secure password. And sure enough, it worked. We are actually in the admin piece for Drupal. This gives us all the configurations, different appearances, the structure, everything here. We're in here now, so we need to begin to start just browsing around. What can we find? So we have all these options up at the top. We're currently at the home. Let's just start moving right down the line and see what we run into. So we'll take a look at the dashboard. And, well, look at here. Flag 3. So let's open that up. So it says special perms will help you find the password, but you'll need to exit that command to work out how to get what's in the shadow. Okay, so we're getting another breadcrumb here. We're getting another kind of pointer to the next flag. It's important to look at the words here. These are both in all caps, so that tells us something. It also, we see -exe, and it does make a reference to the shadow file. So it's giving us some information of where we need to get to, where we need to go, to kind of get to the next part of where we want to go. So it's telling us to use the find. So this might be somewhere we can go. Let's go back to. We need to go back to that shell we were in. All right, so this is the shell we were in. The one thing about when you get a shell off of Meterpreter, you notice I don't have anything leading here. That kind of drives me crazy. I can't, I don't know if I'm sitting waiting on a process to finish. So let's, I think I can fix that here. Let's do Python C. Let's do import pty semicolon pty dot spawn bin bash. I think this will work. We're going to find out together here. Close that up, run it. All right, super. So it tells us who we are. We're www-data. We're on server DC1, and it gives us, we're in the var www sites defaults. So this helps us. We don't have to keep doing a print working to directory to figure out where we're at now. So we know our user and we know our location. So that is awesome. I talked about using the find command. So let's drop back to the root, and let's do just that. Let's do a find. We want to tell it the type that we're looking for is a file. The name that we're looking for, we would really like this to say flag something. And we need, whoops. Let's go back. I need to tell it where to start looking at. So we want to start looking in the root. We want to look for that type of a file. Name, we really like it to say flag something, and go. Alright, so we're getting some things here. Var www flag 1, remember we had that. Oh, look right here. Home, flag 4 text. So let's move into home. Let's move into flag 4. And let's go ahead and cat that out. That is flag4.txt. And it says you can use the same method to find or access the flag in root. Probably. But perhaps it's not that easy. Or maybe it is. Alright, we found 4 of the flags. We know that there's 5 flags on here, and we know typically that main flag we're going for is in the home directory for root. Simply the fact that the only thing that's going to be able to access that is root. So we need to get access to that. So now we're looking at privilege escalation. We're on the server. We're on the server as www.data, but we need to escalate our privilege because we need to be root. We need to have full access to everything. Now, if we look back to special perms, will help find. Okay, so we got perms and find. I've got an idea here to see if, let's see if this works. There is, ladies and gentlemen, get your pencils out. You are going to want to know this website. This is GTFO bins at github.io. Bear with me, I think that's it. Yes. All right. What this is doing, this is going to give us some different binary applications that are on the server and different functions that they can perform. Now, one of the things that was telling us in this, the secret is that find. So we were using that find command to find flag 4, and it was saying that you could use the same method to find the one in root, or can you? Now we know if we do the find command that we're not going to be able to see what is in the root folder, but with some of those other clues they gave us, I think, let's put in find. Okay, we have the binary find, and some of the functions, we can spawn a shell off of this. This is awesome information. This is why this website is so cool. We can simply click on that, and it's actually going to let us know how we can spawn that shell. So let's go back to where we were. Here we are, we're in the homes flag folder. And what we want to type in is this command right here. So we want to utilize the find command. And we want to do the exe. Remember it told us about this in that secret, the -etc. And then we want to do a bin shell into root quit. Alright, let's see if this works. And look what it did. Any of you who are familiar with Linux, you know where we were before. We had this $sign on our prompt right here, and now you notice we have a £sign. That usually means one thing, and let's see if it's true. So who am I? And I am root. I have full access to the server now. I can do anything I want. I can create accounts, change passwords on accounts. I have full control whatsoever. Sticking with what we're going for, let's go look in that home directory. So let's go back to, we're in the root, so let's change to the root home. Or am I in that root? Let me do print working directory. No, I'm still in the home flag folder. So let's drop all the way back to root. Change to the root folder. Do this. There it is. So let's cat out. Final flag txt, and there it is. Well done. Hopefully you've enjoyed this and have learned some new skills. Yeah, definitely a big shout out to DCAU7. He is the gentleman who has created these servers, these DC servers. He has created the server, he has put all the security permissions in and everything, and then he packages this up so we can essentially just drop it into a virtual environment and turn it on. So when I say we don't know anything about the server, we legitimately don't. You know, I can walk over to that virtual server right now and I could not log into it because I don't know any of the username passwords. Now that I have root here, I can create some. But when we drop them into this virtual environment, we don't know anything about them, and that's exactly how we want it. We don't want to come into any one of these environments with extra information, because by doing that, we're not learning. So definitely a big shout out to him. And that really takes us to the end. There's lots of different ways to accomplish what we've done. You know, looking back at a number of the different techniques we use, you know, to get the shell account, to get into Drupal, and, you know, even thinking a little bit further, Drupal uses, remember we were looking at that one file and it was talking about the different file structures, and one of those the directories in the file structure was themes. CMSs use themes to change the way the websites work. One of the big vulnerabilities, especially with Drupal, and especially the fact that we had access to the admin console for Drupal, we can write a PHP or Python reverse shell script, and we can simply we can download a theme for Drupal. It downloads, all it is a zip file full of different folders and files. We take our reverse shell script and we drop it into that zip file, and then because we're admins, we load that theme onto the server, and then we can simply browse to the directory into that theme and execute that reverse shell. So another way to be able to get a shell script, you know, through Drupal, through, you know, a vulnerability or because of a way it works, we would be able to get that reverse shell in there and get connection to the server. So just because you saw the ways that I got into the server, and don't think that that is the only way to do it. There are different methods from getting in. Maybe you can find a better and faster one than I did. So I'd like to thank each and every one of you for watching. I really encourage you to take a look at some of these. Capture the flag is a really fun thing to do. You know, you just need to start maybe on easier levels so you can actually start getting some experience, and then definitely get out there and get in some games and have some fun. I'd like to thank you all again, and I look forward to seeing you in our next video.